Well, well, well. If there hasn't been a better Wednesday in the city of Chicago recently, I don't know what would be qualified to take over that spot. Because we are going live right here on the REKAP Lunch Hour with me, Guff, Ryan McGuffey. Snowing in about 10 minutes north. Ben Johnson just won a press conference. Now, look, why is it different? Why does it matter? We've had people win press conferences in this town before. We have. Okay. Matt Nagy was pretty good. Joe Madden probably comes to mind. I think is maybe the true original winner of a press conference. No one has been more perfect and calculated and ready to take the mic than Ben Johnson was for the Bears today at Hallis Hall as he was introduced as the 19th head coach in Chicago Bears history. When asked if he could win in 2025, he said, "Our mission is to win and to win now. And if guys are willing to put the work in, then yes, they can." Saying that this was the job he wanted. In his Zoom interview, his one interview, he never came to Hallis Hall. In his one interview, he said, "I want this job." I love that, man. I love the idea. Like, I'm in the interview. This is the job I want. Do you want to make sure I'm your guy? Andrew says, "Let's effing go chasing greatness." Absolutely. Andrew also, "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." Now, that was something Joe Madden would say. Here's the best part, and this is why things are different. Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet all came back into town for this press conference. You might think, well, it's not a big deal. We've seen players do that before. Not really. Not really. Caleb flew from California to be here today. Okay? He looked right over to his left side when asked specifically about Caleb. He said, Caleb was attractive, but he's not the sole reason. There's more talent. And he looked right at his players and he said, "Guys, get comfortable being uncomfortable." And that's the damn accountability that not only the players are asking for, but they need. And then a little secret. What up, broski? And Dave, this is there should be people like you saying, "Wait a minute, I don't give a damn about winning the press conference." We've seen off-season hope so much. We saw a ton of it last year. If you were to stack up, I would love to do this. Go back to Matt Eberflus's introductory press conference and play it against Ben Johnson's. It will look like a high school football coach being rolled out there in Rolling Meadows. You know, I know they had an opening because Robbie left. It'd be like watching Eberflus take a high school job versus a guy that's coming in here and saying, "Damn it, this is my job. Here's why. Here's why I'm ready. This is what we're building." And I enjoy beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. I mean, talk about getting it. He didn't name Green Bay. He flipping called out the head coach by name. He called out the head coach, Matt LaFleur, by name. Haven't seen that before. He talked about experience being important, saying that the offensive coordinator is going to be a guy who has to work in tandem with him, specifically early in the week. Now, I talked about this yesterday, specifically early in the week to build a good game plan, stay up late with him, work together, and then he'll put his tweak on it. He said the offense will look nothing like Detroit. Think about how scary that is, that they're going to rip it down to the studs and build this around what the Bears have. He said this, "I'm not going to come in here and drop a playbook on the table and say, well, this worked before and it's going to work here." I love it. Landon, feeling like Sonny Weaver from draft day. Bears made a splash. Ben Johnson, no matter what. Kevin Warren says a couple of nights ago, he's sitting at the bar and a fan sends a drink over. With the drink, there's a note that says, "Hire Ben Johnson." He kept the note and plans on giving it to Ben Johnson. I'd love to see who that fan was. Laz says the Bears are now a legitimate football program. Hallelujah, it's about time. We hope so. We hope that this is what it is. I want to go over some of the highlights. So why Chicago? He's got 3 young kids. He said for the last 10 years that he's been coming to Chicago on a Cubs trip every year with his family. For 10 years. He's been coming here for 10 summers. He's already know. He said Chicago was a place that he's been looking to raise his family. He knows this is exactly what he wanted to do. In terms of staying in the division, and there's a lot of people from Detroit What? No applause. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah. I still think he didn't confirm or deny any specific names, Broski. He did say coaching experience would matter. In terms of staying in the division, I wanted to stay in this division. I know this is the toughest division in football. And to go back to LaFleur, to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. There's a lot of people saying, oh, you're a traitor. No, any one of us would have taken that job. It was clear to me from the beginning that the priorities were straight. Hang on. I told our search committee that I wanted this job. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. There's so much in here. Not be surprised if Thomas Brown goes to the Patriots. Who cares? Like that is, I'm all over the place right now with all this stuff. Let's talk about your comments here as more come in. Ryan, we can take the narrative of Ben Johnson not being able to command a room to Ben. No doubt. If that guy can command a room like he commanded that room today, everyone's in for a treat. Like, because this guy's going to run a football program. And he talked about accountability, that right now it's going to have to come from the coaches, but eventually the idea is that it comes from your veteran players. But right now they don't have that. They don't have the accountability, so they're going to coach it up. And he talked about guys who are repeat offenders will be made examples of. Ho! Finally. No off days. Tyler, you can see how I feel about this guy. I feel the same way, man. This is different. Jason, what up, Guff? The best part of the pressure was Johnson will build a playbook around the talent, right? Like I just talked about that. He's not going to walk in there and be like, well, look what we did in Detroit. You got to go back. Look at it. Look at what he did in Detroit a couple of years ago and the talent, the players that were there. They weren't the same guys now. He's been able to, what I loved about him saying, he goes, I know this job is completely different than the offensive coordinator. I've been coaching for 13 years. And along the way, I'm a football coach. I evolved in the positions I grew to. Isn't that what you want to hear? And now he's going to grow to this and the head coach, knowing that he's got to commit to all phases of the football team. Eberflush, a low energy. Dude, I actually can't wait to see the first video the Bears put out when he wins the first game of the year. I'm never a big, let's fast forward and get to September. I want to appreciate every day. I'm ready. Like, I really want to see what he instills in this football team. Ron says it's really early, but the signs are there for a huge turnaround. I'm going to I want the culture to be changed. He loves the talent. Said the Bears were a sleeping giant. He said he was more concerned about the Chicago Bears going into the season than any other team in the division. And that he's here to figure out why that didn't happen. He loved the talent that's already here. Knows that the offensive line needs to be fixed. And to your point, Ron, they need some dudes on the offensive and defensive line before I can say, yeah, I think they're definitely going to the playoffs next year. We're not there yet. I mean, they just finished a 5-12 season. This offseason starts now. Let's get this team situated with coaches, players, bear down. I love the fact, guys, you had 4 players, all skill positions, all out the room, all that came back to be a part of this today. Paul says the fan base is so broken. It's like when you're 9 and 10 and everyone tells you Santa isn't real, but you keep hoping to be proven otherwise. First off, don't be ripping the rug off, saying that Santa. You got to believe, Paul. Stop believing, he stops coming. If you want to stop believing and just be pessimistic, that's your choice. I think it's okay to think that hope might be on the way. That maybe, just maybe, that the Chicago Bears got it right. Maybe. Could this be the Chicago Bears, said Sydney, of Remember the Titans? I love it because I think he's going to evaluate that roster, and there might be a couple of parts on that roster that he has to convince to be a part of. And at the end of the day, if they don't want to be here, they'll figure themselves out, and it'll all figure itself out. George McCaskey on the Zoom interview with Ben Johnson, the first thing he said was, I want this job. And the last thing he said, did I tell you I want this job? Are you kidding? Like, I love it. Vince says, I love opening pressers. It's like when a man or woman goes out initially with a guy or girl they like. She's great. He's so dreamy. He's a doctor on the side. Let's wait and see. Bear down. Fair. Vince, it's fair. But in the world of judging a person for today, Ben Johnson won. And again, there have been multiple people in this town that have won press conference day. I don't think I remember Matt Eberflus winning. I was at the Matt Nagy one. I was like, damn, let's go. So you're right, because we're here time and time and time again. I think you talked about, I think he means shoot. Lou means shoot. The one negative, John Shoop. He talked about being like John Shoop. I know what he was saying. Just the name in this town is like, no. I don't want to hear about accountability. I want to see it. Yeah. It's probably the word that I'm sick of the most. Accountability and culture. But it's what they know. It's what they need. Yes, Lou. It's what they need. But I'm sick of talking about it because it's been so obvious they need it. So let's do something about it. Ryan says Ben Johnson won today. The important part now is building off of that and getting buy-in from the players. The fact he had 4 players fly in from wherever they live to be a part of today, I think is already showing you. Now you want, like, we knew Caleb bought in when he got catfish last week, and on the St. Brown podcast, they addressed it. Les says you can tell the attention of Caleb. He had the attention of Caleb and the other players, no doubt. What's up, Grover? Tyler, if they get Allen and Reezy, we rolling. Yeah, I agree. Get the right people in position to get your message and plan across. He felt pretty confident about the coaches he's going to bring in. He didn't go them by name because they don't have deals done yet. There's probably some guys still coaching or up for interviews. Caleb on the hiring of Ben Johnson. Insanely excited. I mean, think about that. Insanely excited. Couple more quotes here. Let's find some more quotes. Caleb meeting the media at Hallis Hall right now. Oh, Ben Johnson talking about being lockstep. He's like, I'll be in lockstep with Ryan Poles in every sense of the way, in every sense of the word, and every day. These are people I wanted to be around. Said the Bears were a sleeping giant. I talked about that. This roster is locked and loaded with talent already. We think so. Now it's taking the talent that he sees and getting the most out of it. I'm trying to look and make sure we haven't missed anything. Super excited for this organization, is what Caleb said today. He just said that, actually. Ben Johnson says he'll build an offense in Chicago that won't be anything similar to Detroit. Again, that's a guy that's talking about evolving. Let's get to more of your comments. Pedro Grafal did not win the room. He said we're going to prepare to kick your ass, but he wasn't today. Today was different. As long as he doesn't call Montez Dragon Slayer. Grafal won the pressure. He was kicking everyone's ass. He was different than the guy before him, Tony La Russa, who, was brutal. But come on, dude. I mean, we could say Pedro won. Who was John Shoop? Look him up. Old offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears back in the early 2000s. Lip Ripper. Take the North back. Excuse me. We had a tough day, Lip Ripper, on the old bets yesterday. The next milestone is to see what he and Poles do in the draft. No doubt. The actual next milestone is to see what they do in free agency, because that's first. That's in March. So it's going to go combine, like Senior Bowl, combine, free agency, draft. So I think the next step is to see what they do in free agency and then what they do in the draft, for sure. Courtney Cronin has everybody follow, whoever you follow. There's plenty of great nuggets from all of them across the board. Talked about contending in 2025. Here's what I wanted to go back to. There's no question it can happen in 2025. Depends on how hard we're willing to sacrifice and how hard we're willing to work. Pretty interesting stuff. Great question. It sounded like Kevin Warren and George were mum. They would not comment on whether or not Ryan Poles already received an extension. Here's the quote about the offense looking nothing like it did in Detroit. It's not going to look like it did in Detroit. Notes how the personnel in Chicago looks, quote, completely different than it did in Detroit. The offense will be calibrated with Caleb in mind. Caleb played a large component in my decision. Said the Bears are providing the necessary resources for him to build the team he wants. It was clear to me from the beginning that the priorities were straight. A lot going on here, folks. Amon-Ra throwing water all over the defense, saying Ben threw the game on purpose. It's so ignorant. It's ignorant. The Detroit fans are so upset, calling Ben Johnson a traitor. It's funny. You had the entire world behind you wanting to win. Bears fans rooting for the Lions. And now, because you guys flopped in the playoffs and your coaches are leaving, this is what success looks like. And you're blaming everybody else? How about your team giving up 45 flipping points, not being able to keep Jaden Daniels off the field? And then your coordinator, our head coach, probably getting a little too cute in the second half. And you're going to blame You're going to blame Chicago? Dude, look in the mirror. You were America's sweethearts. I love Dan Campbell, still my favorite coach in the league. Hopefully not for long. But I'm just telling you, that's a team, that's an organization, that's a city that has to get used to being what it's like to be the top dog. And I know it's new to you. Be mad. You already got this America's sweetheart. You got Dan Campbell. Ben Johnson called him a unicorn today. I mean, it's funny to me. Landon says Lovey won the presser when he said number one goal, beat Green Bay. Ben said, I loved beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. Lovey definitely won his press conference with that comment. But the fact that Ben Johnson called him out by name, that was different to me. But Lovey, I think, was probably the guy who won the presser in a boring way. Ryan says, I would love to see the Bears get Trey Smith from the Chiefs. It sounds like he's going to free agency. I'm with you, Ryan. I don't see the Chiefs letting him walk. Chiefs need help at the tackle position. And to let a good guard, too, wouldn't help them. It seems like he's going to free agency, but until he does, until everything sorts itself out, let's see what happens here with the Chiefs. See if they make another run at the Super Bowl. Guff just mentioning guys who, quote, won the presser. I'm all in on Ben Johnson. I've just learned that the words mean nothing. The talking occurs on the field, courts, etc. Vince, I totally agree, man. I can be excited today, though, because I feel like they got this right. I feel like when the entire country, coast to coast, is sitting there going, holy hell, like everyone's talking about it in a good way, that's a good hire. I don't know how it's going to transpire. I loved how it transpired today because he won a room. He commanded a room. Yesterday in that welcome video to Hallis Hall, he commanded a room. He could have said nothing. He looked up, get back to work. It's going to take everything from you guys to help every one of those guys in the locker room. He's won the last couple of days. Get comfortable being uncomfortable is my biggest takeaway from his conference. Good to see him setting the tone early. And you know why, Mark? It's a big thing because he looked in the eyes of the players who were there and he told them to get comfortable being uncomfortable. He didn't look into a camera. He didn't look at the reporter. He looked right to his left and he said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That their job is to get the most out of them. That they have to come ready to work. I'm with you, Mark. I loved it. Broski says Lions fans bragged about how much Ben was being paid as their OC. And now they're pissed that he's gone. This was always the plan. He was going to leave. I saw, the St. Brown clip this morning when they were talking about Ben being gone and that Amon said they're going to F him up twice a year. And Ben Johnson said, we're going to F you up too, which I love. I love that. But yeah, you can't, it's one of those things. It's like you're eating caviar and you're bragging about it. And then everybody else gets a taste too. I may be a bad comp because I don't love caviar, but you guys know what I mean. It's like you have all the toys and bells and whistles and somebody else just took one, got one too in your division. He was targeting the division, period. What Lions fans forget too is all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball caught up to. Yeah, I mean, defensively, they were so banged up. Lip Ripper, these Lions fans are having meltdowns. This is the best thing to watch in the world. It is actually pretty entertaining. If you haven't seen the Lions fans melting down, I'm not like, I don't love, like, I feel really bad. Actually, I do. I feel bad for Detroit. I feel like they got just shortchanged so much. Now, they just played a bad football game, but I do feel bad for them, but they're spewing, and it makes no sense. Trader? Guff, you and Cap are friends. If someone quadruples your salary, you'll learn to test Cap more often. People don't deny raises like that. First off, let me tell you something about Cap and I. We're partners, okay? I don't work for Cap. Cap doesn't work for me. This is a business that we built. We're partners, and we're taking this thing to the moon, hopefully. That's our plan. Regardless, we got you guys here. We're doing it. I understand what you're saying, though. If somebody came to us and said, we got a number in mind, and it's going to blow your mind, of who's not taking the call? Who's not taking the call? I think the trader talk is insane. There was a good job available and a good coach available. It so happened to be in the same division. Thomas, there he is. Ben kept the Lions in that game. Lions defense flopped. Jared turned it over 4 times by that point. I thought Jared turned it over 3 times. Didn't Jamison Williams throw a pick in that game? There was 5 turnovers. So Ben kept him in it, but the play calling by Ben Johnson was suspect in the second half. You could say no. They scored 10 points. Okay? They scored 10 points in the second half. And Jamison Williams throwing that football. Yeah, you're right. Jared Goff did have 4 turnovers. But Jameis, I'd say, like, I'm not going to sit here and criticize Ben Johnson. I just thought he got a little too cute in the second half. Bigger burn, Council to the Cubs or Johnson to the Bears? Great question, Dave. That's a great question. Both with big contracts. Both, I think, the biggest in team history on either. Probably Council, right? Like, he left the manager's post to a team he grew up loving and going to and being a part of to go to the Cubs. I would say Council, because Johnson took a promotion. You can't fault Ben Johnson or Craig Council for that matter, but I'd say it's a great question. I might have to pull that as a question of the day, Incan Law. This is what Caleb Williams and the Bears fans ask, so make this happen. Get the trenches right, like a good left tackle. And I want a damn good center too, and a couple of guards. I don't prefer a rookie center if there's a guy in free agency to target. Yeah. Like, there are little things. This is a great point by Tom here. Really little things. Eye contact should not be a little thing. Listening should not be a little thing. Dude, he was so point on. Looking for the guy he's looking for the media member with the question. Boom. Yep. Got it. Looking at him. Bam. Answer. Look at the delay between question to answer. It was like question, finish, bam, start your answer. No notes, no script. A guy who has prepared himself for this moment. Great eye contact. That's why I love when he looked to his left, just like this. He looked right at those players. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Well, I think a lot of us do. I think you're right. Ben is a football guy. Yeah. Isn't it nice to know, too, his name's not Matt? That we have to sit there and go Matt and Ryan again. I have a buddy. I'm fine with Ryan, but it's good to have a Ben and not a Matt. Thomas, we don't have to sit here and go back on Saturday night. No one really in Chicago cares anymore. I hear you, though. Danny, I'm a little bit worried that we're going to do the whole champion of the offseason thing and get the fans' hope way too high like the last 2 off seasons, and that's fair. Danny, I think that's fair to think that because we've been here before. We get nervous. It's concerning. But again, look at what people were saying when Ben Eberflus. Oh, jeez. Sorry, Ben Johnson. When Matt Eberflus got the job, people weren't raving coast to coast. They were like, defensive guy. Huh, interesting. You got Justin Fields and needs to be developed. I wouldn't have probably gone defense. Now you have everybody in the football going, there's not a, unless somebody's trying to get clickbait, they're not saying anything bad about this hire. Recap going to be the next John Boy, worldwide cap. Let's go, Landon. Your mouth to God's ears. Goff threw 3 picks, lost a fumble. Jameson threw an interception. 5. Thanks, guys. I went back and I already looked it up. I know. It doesn't matter. The play calling was too cute. They were down 10 when Jameson Williams ran a reverse pass. It shouldn't have been done when Jahmyr Gibbs was tearing up the defense. 14 carries for 105 yards. He's averaging 8 yards a carry, 7.5 yards a carry. They had 23 carries for 203 yards on the ground. They were averaging 9 yards a carry on the ground. Yet we're going to throw a reverse pass down 10. Okay, you guys can argue with me. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you. You have the best running back in the game right there on the field. Just keep doing it. Agree to disagree. It's fine. The Lions couldn't get the Commanders off the field, though. Defensively, they were done. Counsel to the Cubs, I would agree. Khalil Mack has announced he's coming back for he's an unrestricted free agent. Interesting note, Steve. Knows the city. Can certainly get after the quarterback. I don't know. Would you guys want Khalil Mack back? I don't think he's going to require some 3-year deal. He only had 6 sacks this year, 107.5 total for his career. Pretty damn good player, right? I mean, here in Chicago, 12.5, 8.5, 9, and 6. He only played 7 games in that 6-sack season. Bears could use somebody like that. It's Defensive Player of the Year, 2018. The AP player. Yeah, he was pretty damn good for the Bears. Pro Bowler in 3 of those seasons. That'd be great. I also hope we don't draft Genty in the first round because the Lions did it with Gibbs. Our O-line is nowhere. I'm with you. I just feel like that'd be a pick of while I like the player, it's not the most important thing you need right now. It's just not. Yeah, Vince, you're doubling down on that. We spent the past 4 months complaining about the O-line. Now we'll take a running back in the first round. What's up, David? I don't think they will. I'd be surprised. Unless they flipped Swift for some more draft capital. What are you getting from him? A third? I don't know. The Bears' rise to winning is a process. Real fans will understand that leadership is there. You know, another thing I liked what he said? That he's seen more bad than good. He talked about not coming from an organization that had been ripping off winning season after winning season. They built to get there. And he said that in Miami, too, he saw what it's like not to win. So he's going to use that experience to know when he's falling. He could be falling in potential pitfalls or going down roads that are going to lead to bad habits and losing seasons or organizations. I thought that was a really bright point, that I've been more part of bad than good, and he hasn't forgotten about it. I think that's something that people forget. We look at what the Lions have done the last 2 or 3 years and like, oh, yeah, they're the best team in football. Well, look at how they started, though. He was there 6 years. Yeah, I hate him too. Charles, that's what a head coach looks like. Certainly like what he sounds like too. Talk about raising his family here. I mean, that's a guy who's got long-term thinking going on. And every guy comes here thinking they're never going to be fired, but he's coming here going, everything about this is what I've wanted. Here's why. Here's what we're building. And I'm raising my family in the meantime too. And this is the place I want to do it. Broski says more rookie centers are becoming legit starters right away. Draft a first-round left tackle, a center with one of our second-round picks. Need a stud offensive line to grow and play together for years. You know where you guys know where I feel about this. I said get as many 280-pound dudes as you can that can move people that way. Both sides of the ball. Wayne, I don't know what about you, but Ben sounds like a man with a plan. His approach sounds calculated, professional. It just sounds different than past conferences, previous coaches. Totally agree, Wayne. That's what I've said. We've heard winners. We've heard guys win the conference. Not like that. It wasn't too cute when the double and end around went to this first half, dude. I'm talking about the second half, Thomas. Talking about the second half when they needed to make a play and they had already turned the ball over 3 damn times. But I appreciate that you're going to die on the hill. I'm all in on Ben Johnson unless he comes back with an awful new hairdo. Oh, like he comes back with the beard. Like I kind of did from like never having one to starting one when Hard Knocks came out. Bad idea. Broski, wasn't agreeing or disagreeing at the time you asked, so I was just giving you a breakdown. Bear down. Mack would bring a veteran leadership presence to the Bears defense. I wonder if he's got PTSD from when he was here. Genty isn't Gibbs, not as explosive. I mean, Gibbs got that 4.3 speed. I'm with you months behind. O-line, 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 O-line. Better be the picks. I totally agree with you. Sam, do you think Ben Johnson can utilize Gerald Everett? Dude used to be a stud on the Rams. I'd cut his ass. How about that? I would. I don't think he's, from what I heard about Gerald Everett, wasn't loved. Work ethic issues. Again, this is coming from people in the room. I think all of that stuff's going to be taken care of too. I do. I think all of that stuff. And by the way, like everybody going, "Oh, this team had too many podcasts and stuff." This there are guys in Detroit that are doing the exact same thing. They can coexist. It has nothing to do with having a bad culture. I'm freaking excited, says Da Bushes. Let's go get some great talent and start with development. Brad said he felt Ben's optimism. It gave him confidence I haven't had as a Bears fan in ages. If he can do that for fans, he can do it for players. Steve says if the locker room and leadership are on the same page, more players will come here, but all that takes years. Everyone wants to win, which is understandable, but you have to believe they are certainly trying. And then Wayne, boy, every team, including Detroit, that wanted Ben are brutal right now. I would think Detroit would appreciate the way he turned the team around. Well, keep in mind, they're sad. So it's like you're sad, you're hurt, you're angry. So it's the stages of grief, Wayne. And right now, Lions fans are feeling the stages of grief because they're just lashing out left and right. And it's just not working. I don't agree with what they're doing either. But again, I'd love to say I've been there before, but I haven't because the Bears haven't been on top in a long ass time. So hopefully, once again, we get to a spot where we're complaining about an early exit in the playoffs. I hope it never happens, but I'd love to be sitting here talking about getting beat in the playoffs than winning the press conference. But Ben Johnson took care of that today. And then Mo, my guy. Totally agree, man. You know, going back up to months behind. First round pick, defensive lineman. Second round pick, offensive lineman. Third round pick, offensive lineman. Fourth round pick, defensive lineman. No problems. Get as many athletic big dudes that can drive people off the football as possible. Lot of love here, guys. So much Ben Johnson love, and it makes too much sense, right? What a job by Ben Johnson. Let's get to the recap bet of the day. I wish I could just have bet on Ben Johnson wins the press conference minus 500 today. I would have just just try to get an easy win. It's been tough sledding. We've just been 10-10 our last 20 bets, which quite frankly is the way betting goes. Today, Lip Ripper, I'm going to go unconventional. Nick Richards was just traded to the Suns. Gets a good matchup today against the Nets. They got blown out last game. He only played like 22 minutes. He went over in his first game. He had 21, 11, and 1, I think. I'm going 20 or more points, rebounds, and assists tonight against the Brooklyn Nets at minus 135. We got to get back on track. 2-7-1, 12-17-1. We're just 10-10. Blah. The Bonnies got absolutely blown out. That thing was over early. And then UNLV, a 9.5-point favorite, lost outright. So 2 outright losers yesterday. That's the bet of the day. As we wrap things up here, a few more. Lip Ripper, you're laying the puck line with our friends in Toronto. I like it. So we'll go with that. Play a little extra on that. Bears have the talent. If the O-line is fixed, to score 25-30 a game. Kevin loves the hire, but show me results. Show me state, Kev. We agree, man. Thomas shall die on the hill, calling his play calls cute when it worked, not only the entire season, but also in that game. I said it dude, look back on Twitter. I said it in the moment. If you're, I can't believe that you're so hung up on this one game. Okay. Yeah. Jameson. And then look, Jameson Williams throwing off 1 foot in a triple coverage because he's a flipping receiver throwing the goddamn football in a playoff game when you're down 10. I don't understand. You can say it's a good design play. It was a horseshit time to do the play, period. It was a desperate time to call the play. You don't have to. I know the game of football. I know when it's called, things are right and wrong. I guarantee you Ben Johnson would say the same thing. It was well designed, but when you look at it at 30,000 feet in the moment when you're averaging almost 10 yards a carry. It was the wrong call. Whether you want to say it or not, your quarterback was having a bad night. Run the football. They couldn't stop it, and that would have maybe changed things. I don't think it would have because the defense couldn't keep him off the field. When I went back and watched the film on that game, I don't know if you have, that's exactly what the film never lies. So you can die on the hill, and I'm getting worked up about something I shouldn't be, but Thomas the Pot Stirrer does it again. Who cares? The Lions lost, and no one in Chicago cares. The best thing that happened in Chicago is that the Lions lost, period. Because look at now. We're talking about Ben Johnson. Say what you want. Jamison Williams throwing off his back foot. Who cares? Should have been throwing the football at that point. I love you guys. It's been a great, and we went a little longer today. We should have, because guess what? Chicago Bears have a head coach that looks like he knows what the hell he's doing. He sure says the right things. Commanded a room. You got a lot of excitement coast to coast, a lot of excitement in this city, and a lot of excitement on this team. We got plenty more reaction to this press conference later on the Recap Rush Hour. Cap will have all the details as he did yesterday with some of the contract notes. And anything that comes up on the staff, be locked in right here to the Recap Lunch Hour. Speaking of which, we will have a pair of tickets tomorrow. For Friday's Friday Sox Fest. Mark Burley will be there, and we will be having a way to give them away right here. So lock in tomorrow if you can. You got to go. You got to be able to go, by the way. Got to be able to go. David, real quick, finally got a chance to listen to your interview with Getz. Awesome job. Wish the hiring of Getz to expedite this new rebuild was addressed. He's kind of pulling me in. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about his hiring being kind of criticized. Pot stirrer signing off. So am I. And Dave, imagine what we'd be talking about if Detroit won. Rumors and speculation. We're heading in the right direction. That's right. All right. This puts a bow on this edition of the Recap Lunch Hour with me, Guff, Ryan McGuffey. For everybody here at the Recap, stay locked in here as we'll have all the up-to-the-date information on anything and everything Chicago sports. We'll see you guys